right, it's saying that I'm live, but I don't see myself on Facebook. Check. Still don't see nothing. If anybody can hear me, tune in, chime in, whatever. My name's Al. It's usually me and Calms, but if you're married, you know what whatever. Tonight we're talking about grief. I'm trying to see if we're on. There we go. We are on. There we go. We are on. Before we start, I'd like to give a shout out. For those of you who don't know, on Sundays we have a show called Sunday Night Vibes, where we talk about a variety of things. And one of our administrators is Lionel Matt. We call him Oswald. Today is his birthday, so I'd like to give a birthday shout out to my dude Lionel Matt. If you listening, this one's for you, bruh. Get this thing working right.
1, 2, 3. I want to say happy birthday to you. 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 Close your eyes and make that wish. Think about it and blow out your candles. Close your eyes and make that wish. Think about it and blow out your candles. Close your eyes and make that wish. Think about it and blow out your candles. Close your eyes and make that wish. Let's go. Think about it. Check it. Blow out your candles. Happy birthday, fellas. Happy birthday, ladies. It's a party. Light the candles. It's about to get crazy. Grown up babies. Everybody's on the list. Now scream your name. Scream your age. It's time to make that wish. Happy birthday to you. I want to say happy birthday to you. I want to say happy birthday to you. I want to say happy birthday. Let's go.
That's for my dude, La Matt. Happy birthday, La. Hope you enjoyed your day. You know what you mean to us over at SNV. And we'll see you on Sunday. All right. So for those that don't know, I don't know how long ago it was, but I wrote a book called Grief the Silent Assassin. It is available on Amazon, or you can get it from me. I did have a picture of it somewhere. I don't know where it's at. I don't know where the picture's at. Anyway, the picture is on Facebook. You can go, like I said, you can get it from Amazon, and you can get it from me, inbox me or whatever. And for the past, I don't know, we haven't been on for a month, but maybe about about beginning of last month, I had someone call me and said that they wanted me to, just come on and talk about grief. There's so many people who they have, like, I don't know, things are going wrong with them and they just don't understand what's causing it. From my research, I found out that a lot of it stems from grief. We just don't understand, or a better way of putting it is we manage grief the way that we've seen it managed from, I guess the people who were tasked with raising us, or the people who were, that we've been around. We tend to mimic ways to grieve, and Not saying that that doesn't work, but maybe it's not the proper way of grieving for you. Another thing is there's stages to this grief thing. And a lot of us don't even understand that what could be wrong is the misappropriation of the stage, not understanding what stage we're in could cause some behavioral mispatterns. So this is the book, Grief, the Silent Assassin. Like I said, it's available on Amazon, or you can get it from me, written by yours truly. It's comprised of, it's a shame I don't even know how many chapters is in here. I believe it's 6 chapters. It's 6 chapters to the book. The first one is defining grief. The second one is identifying loss. The third is the symptoms of grief. The fourth is stages of grief. The fifth is the struggle is real. And the sixth is there is hope. Tonight, we're going to do the stages of grief, and then we can backtrack to the symptoms of grief. We're in the process of this other book that I'm writing. I don't know where my pictures are. They're all gone. I don't know where it's at. It's called Grief Catching Your Second Wind. That will be the second to this series of Grief, the Silent Assassin. You know, the other day I was thinking, like, okay, it's called an assassin. I call it the silent assassin. There's such a thing as a loud assassin. I was like, man, I don't know. So I'll be watching some of the shows I'll be watching. I pay close attention to the assassins to see if indeed saying my feed went out. If indeed the assassins make noise. I don't know what happened here, but let's see if we can get this back. I'm saying my feed went out. So let me see if that's actually what happened. You know, this technology is something else. I'm starting to see people trickle in the room. Who we got here? That's Carmen. My wife saying, I see you. Yeah, the feed said it went out, but I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, like I said, we're going to deal with chapter. Well, let's go to the first chapter. Let's go to the first chapter. The first chapter is defining grief, understanding what grief is. It can mean a variety of things to different people. But from my research, like I told you before, my research is Psychology Today and Science Weekly. And this is from Psychology Today. It says, grief is the acute pain that accompanies loss. Now, I heard something, I don't know, many years ago. It said, grief is the price you pay for love. And both of them could be true. Defining it is something that you have to do for yourself, because without the definition of what it's doing to you, it's going to be hard for you to process it. Very, very hard to process it. And it's not necessarily tied to a death. A lot of us get the misconception that it's tied to a death, and it's not. It's loss of a job, loss of a car, loss of a house. Just loss in general can cause you to spiral into grief. And sometimes, because we think it has to be attributed to a physical death, we don't even understand we're grieving. We don't even understand we're grieving. And it's death. You know, if you lost that situation died. It's about a situation dying that you just didn't come to terms with. So let's jump to the stages of grief. And I'm going to read this. It says, from executive research, this extensive research, I've discovered there are various stages of grief. This is, we'll concentrate on 5. That's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. All right. And then it says denial simply means what it says. You can't believe it happened. A lot of us, especially with the way that grief happens. I mean, the way that loss happens, we get over, I don't use that word. The methodology sometimes causes the grief to be, really, really hard. Like, so in 2012, for those that don't know, my son passed away, and he passed away quite suddenly. For us, he wasn't sick. We didn't know that he was sick. And when he passed away, it was very, very traumatic. Now, he passed away in his sleep. I don't know how I would have handled that had he been murdered, or some strange kind of way where it would have been easy for me to point the finger at someone or for something that happened. You understand what I'm saying? So the methodology can really compound the grief. But, these stages that we're about to talk about, they don't come in any particular order. Hey, Pooch, they don't come in any particular order. They just happen when you experience loss. And so, like we said, the first one is denial. Quite frankly, it is what it is. You just can't believe it happened. Is that the stage you're in? At the back of my book, well, at the end of every chapter, there is some questions. And as I say, wherever you see me at, whoever you see me with, you have to journal. If you're not journaling, this stuff, you just really wasting your time trying to read it, because you don't have a record. What's up, Jazz? You don't have a record of what is actually going on with you. One of the questions I asked in the back of the book is, what stages do you notice in yourself? This is key. This is key in the process of grief. Where am I at? What's happening? Am I surrounding myself with other grieving people? That's keeping me in this hole of grief. Or am I surrounding myself with encouraging people who are trying to help me out of this grief? The next stage we talk about is, it says denial gives birth to anger, which had been in the closet waiting to come out. It says anger never goes away once it gains entry. It sits dormant, waiting to spring up. Each time it does, it's worse than before. Its partner rage stands at the door, waiting for the signal to come in. And once rage comes in, boom, you're in deep water. You gotta be able to understand where you're at in this grief stage, because if you do not, there's gonna be things that you do that you really ain't gonna have like, why did I do that? And let me go back to what I said earlier in regards to journaling. Partner with journaling, man. You gotta believe in a higher power. Me and my wife, we choose to believe in Christ Jesus and Jehovah, along with the Holy Spirit. Other people believe how they want to believe. I can't tell you how to believe, but to think that you can conquer this thing by yourself, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. You're gonna be spiraling into a hole you can't get out of. You can't get out of. And this is from what I've seen. You'll end up partnering with other people who will make you believe that you're not spiraling, because they're spiraling too. All right. So we talked about denial. Denial gives partner to anger. This was the worst for me, anger. The reason anger was worse for me is because of how I've been raised. Anybody been raised in the hood, anger is fuel. And because I had such good practice being angry. When anger kicked in, I was good to go. I was good to go. I was almost like I was in my, how can I say it? I was in my comfort zone with anger. It's almost like I like being angry. It kept people away. And one of the things you need to understand about grief, if you allow it to isolate you, it'll eat you apart. It will eat you apart because you're not allowing new stuff to get in. You're just wallowing in the old stuff. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with remembering. If we're talking about a death, we're talking about somebody who's passed away. But when it's all you're doing, that's not good. That's not good. Anything that can be said at that particular time, it's going to cause you to be angry. It's going to be angry. All right, since when times are bad, we make promises to God. Okay, so in the book, I mentioned a young lady I know named Pastor Lisa McLean. She wrote this book titled Seasons. Her book, Seasons, The Journey of God's Prophetic Intercessor. And in this book, she talks about how, when you're in a situation, like let's just talk about when you're in a situation and you scream out to God to come and help you. And in the process of you screaming out to God to come and help you, you make these promises. All right. When you get the help that you ask for, all of a sudden you forget about these promises. And it's crazy that we tend to get into another situation and we do the same thing again. Okay, God, if you get me out of this. And so the book says when times are so bad, we make promises to God and others just wanting to escape that bad situation. You'll forget, but they won't, and will hold you accountable. In our counseling sessions, we learn that bargaining helps alleviate the pain of loss, but it's temporary at most. We're into the third stage now, bargaining. You ever find yourself in a situation that you say, oh man, if you get me out of this situation, I won't do this again. I promise I'll do this. And you get out that situation, and all of a sudden, you've forgotten these promises that you've made. This is what happens with let's talk about the death of a close person to you. You start to bargain. And it says, in our counseling sessions, we learn that bargaining helps alleviate the pain of loss, but it's temporary at most. The feelings of hopelessness are what create this most, and you'll play on people's emotions knowing they know you've suffered a tremendous loss and ask for things that otherwise you'd never ask for. What am I talking about? Because these people know that you suffered a loss, you tend to do stuff and say stuff you wouldn't normally say. And you'll forget about it. You'll forget that you've even said anything to these people, but they won't. And now your bargaining has created another dilemma over here. The book, The Feelings of Hopelessness, are what create the most, and they'll play on people's emotions. Okay. It says they won't turn you down, but just like the Almighty, they are looking for a return on what was extended to you. You knew from the start you had no intention of ever repaying it back. Now you may suffer the loss of a dear friend, more loss. So in your bargaining, you'll mess around and lose somebody really, really close to you because you won't keep a promise that you made to them. So now you're suffering more loss. And this is a compound of loss that you're already suffering. And because you're not journaling, you won't realize none of this. You'll think people tripping. I mean, you'll say stuff like, man, I don't know why this person cut me off. I don't know why. And it's over something you may have said or done. And because you haven't been keeping account of what this is, you can't come to terms with it. It's you. It's not somebody else. All right. So we hit denial, anger, bargaining. Now we're gonna let's read some more. Well, it says here comes depression. From all that bargaining, now you're in a position where there are certain places you can't even go because you owe bread. Depression can be extremely heavy because it is here where you completely isolate yourself. Like I said in the beginning, you got to be very careful of isolation. It is a comfortable place. Isolation is comfortable. You don't want to be bothered with nobody. You don't want to hear nobody. It's a comfortable place, but it's a place where you can actually die. All right. Depression can be extremely heavy because it is here where you completely isolate yourself. Crazy thoughts start to enter your mind. For me, suicide was huge. It's not that you really want to die. Death seems like the only way to get rid of the pain. Having access to weapons doesn't help, but because of all the manipulative things you've done to people, I'm talking about myself. So because of all the manipulative things I've done to people, I wasn't going to use my bullets up. Shoot, I needed those. Can you imagine wanting to die, but not knowing how to do it? Isn't that crazy? So you got debt, denial, anger, bargaining, depression. Once again, these don't come in any set order. They can happen at any time. The dilemma? No, not the dilemma. The trick is to know which one you're in. What am I experiencing right now? What am I going through right now? How can I get the help I need right now for what I'm going through right now? For some reason in the African American community, counseling is frowned on. People say, "Oh, if you go to counseling or if you go to a psychiatrist, you crazy." No, not going to make you crazy. You need to go talk to somebody. It's 100% about the purge. It's not about anything else. It's just about the purge. It's just about getting out what it is that's inside of you. So now we go to the last stage, and the last stage is acceptance. And the serenity of prayer says it all. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Life happens. Nothing you can do about that, but you can determine how you handle it. It takes having the proper tools, strategies in place for this. Accepting what happened takes a tremendous amount of support from your loved ones and your desire to want to be better. It's not easy, but well worth it. Yeah. Acceptance. It happened. I mean, it's taken me many, many years to accept what happened, but, I had to accept it. I had to accept the fact that, there's a bigger plan out here than anything, I could put together, and praise the Lord for that, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't. So here's some questions at the end of that chapter. I gave you one earlier. It says, what stages do you notice in yourself? Number 2, can you see how these stages have affected your behavior? And number 3, can you identify the root cause for these? Now let's stop right there. I could go further on about some other things, but one of the things that is extremely important is finding the root cause of some of these what did I call them? Stages. Because grief is an exposer. Grief exposes what's inside of you that's just been laying there. This stuff that's popping up, and when something happens, it's just not something that popped up because that incident happened. It's been sitting inside of you. And now that it's popped up, now what? Now what do we do? How do we attack this? Because if you don't get to the root, it's never going to get to a position. You're never going to get to the position where you can manage it. I had a discussion with a great friend of mine. We were talking about his old behavior. And he was like, some people really believe they're delivered. And I'm not saying that people are not. Don't get this twisted. But you let the right situation pop up, and you're going to see how undelivered you're not. And I'm not saying this for people, the people to think that you can't be delivered. But understand that for me, I'm going to talk about for me, I became a good manager. I'm very good at managing my grief. I don't let it consume me no more than 5 minutes. 5 minutes, because one of the things that we need to understand as well is we're conduits. Stuff is meant to pass through us. We're not supposed to house anything. And when we don't understand what we're created to do and how we created to process things, we'll let stuff sit on the inside of us. And all of a sudden now you have a physical problem based off the fact that you didn't know how to process that thing. Go get you some help. Stop sitting with that grief and go get you some help. There's nothing wrong with going to get help. Find somebody you don't know. If you go to a ministry, the ministry can direct you to someone. Me personally, I don't have anything against anointed people. I think they are a gift from God. But sometimes you need to go somebody with a degree on their wall who's been trained to teach you some strategies on how to conquer what you're going through. I mean, do the math. If you're going to see somebody for 4 or 5 months and ain't nothing changed, you need to stop going to see that person, man. You understand what I'm saying? You gotta be able to go somewhere and get better. You understand? It's not going to be an overnight process. It's not going to be a process where, boom, all of a sudden things are going to, no, it's going to take some work. And you need to be able to track the progress, because if you're not tracking the progress, if all you're doing is just trying to remember stuff, you're defeating the purpose of going. You gotta have you a pad where you can look back and go, okay, let's just say April of, 2022, I was here. September of 2022. Wow, look how far I've come. Look how far I've come. Everybody, and I say this often as well, everybody has a record of you but you. Wait, when are you going to have a record of your own? And who better to write it but you? So the basis of this show, I do better with my partner here, but you can see she's right there. The basis of this show is to once again familiarize you with grief. It's not always tied to a death. Let me change that. It's not always tied to a physical death. It's tied to a death, but not always a physical death. Loss of a house. That situation died. Loss of a job. That situation died. These are all losses that contribute to grief. And once again, you're trying to figure out what's wrong with you, and you might just be grieving. A lot of people who have pretty good jobs, their health insurance will pay for you to go see a psychologist. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's actually mental health days now where you can go and literally, I guess, take a day because your mind is not operating right. I don't know. But yeah, take advantage of the resources that you do have, because the resources that you do have, there could be people who have the help you need, opposed to them being the help. They may be able to direct you in the right direction. But if you find yourself isolating yourself, it's important that you go get some help. It's extremely important. This book has a lot more to it. Like I said, you can get this from me, or you can get it off Amazon. A lot of us are on the daggone computer for hours anyway. Do some research. For those of you who have a problem writing, take your phone, put it on record, and record yourself. But at some point, you got to keep a record. You got to be able to write something down about you that you could go back and read, so that you can have a gauge. Who better to write it but you? Who better to write it? Next week, hopefully my partner be here. If not, man, it's just a brief. I just came on briefly. I was asked to come on and, just talk about grief. And it's not a death sentence. Keish, don't die with the person or the thing that died. Don't let it kill you, because it will. It will put you in a position where you just don't want to do nothing ever. And that's just not good, because I don't think God created you for that. He created you for something much larger. There's somebody out here waiting to see you, waiting to see how you do. Waiting to see you, because there's something about you that they need. If that makes any sense. So once again, we'll be on next week. I guess hopefully my partner will be here. If not, and we'll examine some more about this book. I didn't want to go too deep in it today. Just wanted to familiarize you guys with the book once again. It would be nice if you guys could go and order it, not because I wrote it, but because it will give you a reference point when we come back on and talk about it. This is a very important subject, people, especially for us in the Black community. There's some things that go on in our neighborhood when we were younger that wasn't normal. A lot of stuff that we saw wasn't normal. A lot of stuff that we did wasn't normal. And now we're dealing with these things. Okay, let me change that. Now we're much more aware of some of the stuff we're dealing with now, and don't realize that what we're dealing with, a lot of it has nothing to do with now. It has to do with what happened before. But now that you're being made more aware, these old things are popping up, and we're equating it to what happened now. And it's not all about what happened now. This is some old stuff that's been buried. Boom, something happened, grief or death. And like I told you, it exposes stuff. It pops stuff up. And we need to be thankful that these things popped up. And now we need to do something about it. That's the question. What are you going to do about it? Now that you know, what you going to do? You getting better is an inside job. It's nobody else's job, not your spouse's, not your pastor, nobody else. This is an inside job that you are responsible for. So you have to get up, brush yourself off. Hey, man, it's happened, and keep it moving. And keep it moving, because the earth don't stay still, man. It keeps moving. And sometimes that's like, trying to keep up with that and grieve. It can be a lot. It can be a lot. So, find you, like a place of peace, so that you can go and literally grieve. For me, we've just moved up here, so I haven't really found anywhere. But my wife and I would love to go, see the sunset, see the sunrise, or just go by some water and listen to the water. Something that's going to give you peace. But you have to get strategies first. Something concrete to help you deal with this thing, opposed to so and so said this, so and so. I don't think there's anything wrong with what your friends are telling you. I really don't. But do some journaling to see if you're in a better place. And if you're around those same people all the time, you'll never know that you're in a better place, because you're comfortable there. It's all about getting better, family, from the inside out. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm a whole lot further along than I was, because, man, I was screwed up. I was screwed up. I just felt like I had been cheated. I had joined the ministry, and I was in there, and I was serving. I was like, man, I don't deserve this. My service merited me something. And that's another program that we're raised off. It's called the reward program. A lot of us don't even understand this is something that was instilled in us as kids. When you were younger and you went to school and you got an A and you got that, I don't know, I guess a star on your paper. If you didn't get the A, if you didn't get the A, I don't know, I can't remember what you got on your paper. But the objective was, now I want to get that over there. And so we were taught that our behavior, being good, got a good reward, being bad got us punished. And it created a program that has now nestled itself inside of us that we don't even know that we're operating on. 95% of us operate off of this reward program, and we don't even know it. So anyway, just came on to Your service is just that, your service. Yeah, we just came on to, you know, hopefully help somebody who's mismanaging their grief, not realizing grief is something that just cracks you wide open. It cracks you open, and the humanity that's inside of you, the humanity that's inside of you pops out. And some of us think that's a bad. It's not. It's not. It's this stuff that pops up creates more compassion. It creates more empathy. It creates stuff that had not you experienced that loss, you would never ever be. Like my level of compassion is so high. Had not my son passed away, I would never be this compassionate. Never be. I don't care what could have happened. I just don't think that I would be here had that not happened. You know, I just am more sympathetic towards people, and particularly people who've lost a loved one. And I've connected with so many people who've lost loved ones. It's crazy because they are mismanaging their grief. What's not true? Carmen wrote, not true. I have a stalker on here. My wife, she's upstairs. She's supposed to be down here. The Christ in you will not allow you to stay in that place. Yeah, now, but back then, you know, had it not been for Apostle Banks and Apostle Charlie Ammons, I don't know where I'd be at. People who just took the time, took time with me that they didn't have to. I mean, these are important people that have a lot to do in their community. They didn't have to take time with me because I was just angry. I was angry at God. Like, how dare you? How dare you take my son away from me after all I've been doing? And then I had a friend of ours named Pastor Chambers. He took me to a scripture, I think it's in Thessalonians, where it talks about this great cloud of witnesses. And the way he explained it was I mean, it was so on point. He says, you know, because in my rendition, I'm like, and tell you I got a stalker. I'm gonna start putting the comments that she's stalking me. And in my rendition, I'm like, yo, why you take my son? You could have took a crackhead or, you know what I'm saying, some over there shoot heroin. And he was like, explaining to me there's a great cloud of witnesses. They're the ones who go before us and cheer us on. Crackheads, alcoholics, heroin addicts, they're not in position to do that. So when you see a lot of these people that you think should be gone instead of the good people, there's a reason why the good people go. There's a reason. So we got some comments here. Taryn writes, mismanagement of grief is that a light? Is lit for me. Kathy writes, still grieving 4 years later, trying to just be normal. Needed to hear this. I'm mismanaging my grief for sure. And you know what I'm saying, Kat, as well as Taryn, as long as you're breathing, you can get it right. You can get it right. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going to talk to a licensed professional whose skill is grief management. That's what they're skilled in. They're skilled in grief management. They have went to school to be able to give you strategies. Oh, my phone. Excuse me. To give you strategies on how to deal with grief. It's a light bulb because I haven't managed it well. You can tell, Taryn, I don't know nothing about these new. Carmen says there are some crackers that are in recovery who could cheer you on. I didn't say the ones in recovery, stalker. I said the ones that are still out there getting high. Hold on, I'm getting text over here. Let's see what this is saying. So that's my Saturday Night Vibes crew. Yeah, well, we got a little bit more time. Let's go to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is the stages. No, we did that already. It's the symptoms. The symptoms of grief. This is a pretty good chapter. There's a quote. It says, I sat with my anger long enough until she told me her real name was grief. I sat with my anger long enough until she told me her real name was grief. You name it, and its ties trace back to grief. Frustration, bitterness, jealousy, envy, depression, strife. The list is endless. Looking back in my journals, I discovered that every one of my negative behaviors were connected to some kind of loss. Never allow anyone or anything to minimize whatever that loss is. That's huge right there. You ever find yourself, like I've seen people, and I'm not necessarily saying they were grieving, but they're going through something and they say stuff like, oh, excuse me. You don't have to excuse yourself for nothing. You understand what I'm saying? You cry, you scream, you do whatever it is at that moment to let that thing process through you. You don't sit and hold it in. A lot of times you may have to walk away from a situation or an area or wherever you at and let that thing out. You have to let it process. Otherwise, it will affect you physically. It will affect you physically. The key here is journaling. You listen, man, you gotta journal. You gotta journal. I don't care if, like I said, you take your phone and voice record yourself on the phone. You gotta journal. It's extremely important so that you can go back and look at what it is or where it is that you're at. Let me skip through here. So this chapter talks about symptoms and roots. We talked about root. We had a convocation this weekend, and roots was the key to what one of the speakers spoke about. It was a tremendous weekend. But yeah, these symptoms that we may experience, anger, bitterness, these are symptoms that tie to the root cause, which is the grief. It all goes back to grief. A lot of us don't realize it, but the majority of our issues go back to grief. We're not grieving properly. The questions in the back of this chapter is, what symptoms can you identify with? Can you see how this ties back to a loss? Can you pinpoint what that loss may have been? It's loss. How do I identify my behavior? Let me change that. Can I take this behavior and pinpoint to what it comes from? What is the behavior? What does this behavior come from? Is it the loss in front of me? Or is it a loss that's happened a while ago that now, because what's just happened has me grieving, now am I compound grieving? Am I grieving for something that I didn't grieve properly for before? You got to journal, family. You got to journal. A pen and a pad is what, $2? And just don't try to understand what you're writing. Just write it down. Just keep writing. Put it away. Put it away. But when you get that urge to go pick that pad up, pick it up and read it. Pick it up and read it. Don't pick it up and read it. Be very, very honest with yourself. Very, very honest. And go from there. That's another huge key is honesty. Gotta be honest with yourself. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable to the right people. And a licensed professional is the right person, because not all of them are right. You go clothes shopping, you got to pick one out that works for you, but you got to find somebody that you're going to be able to talk to, that's going to give you some real good strategies on how to not resolve, because grief is not resolvable. Don't think you're going to get over grief. It does not work like that. It's a part of your life. It has now become a part of your life. Let's stop making it a bad part. Because you grow from it. You grow tremendously from it. You know, me, I've grown in compassion. I've grown in empathy, because before I couldn't stand people and didn't have a problem telling you that. You know, my wife always said, she didn't say I was rude. She said, I don't know, she used some word, but I didn't care. And that's just not how things should be. You shouldn't be like that. And that had nothing to do with grief. That was just how I was. You know, but grief cracked that thing in the head. You know, I try to watch what I say now. You know, I try to take people's feelings into consideration. You know, some people, if you can't, you know, deal with them, then, you know, go somewhere. Don't be around them, because it's dangerous for you to be around them people, because your well-being is what's at stake. Your peace is what's at stake. You want to be the best you could possibly be. And that means processing some things that you don't want to process. That means being vulnerable to people that you might not want to be vulnerable to. You know, for me, man, vulnerability opens up a well of things, man, that, you know, I grew up not, you know, vulnerability to me was like, you soft. It's the worst thing I could have ever been taught. The worst thing I could have ever been taught. I should have been taught something a lot more than that. You know what I'm saying? But people gave me what they had. And that's where a lot of us are grieving at. We are grieving from experience. We are grieving from what we've seen. We are grieving from what has happened in our households, in our environments. It's a cyclical thing. We've been given grief management, and now we're using it, and it was for those people. It wasn't for us. And so now we got to figure out where do I go? Who do I turn to? You know, there's nothing wrong with talking to a stranger. Absolutely nothing wrong with talking to a stranger. They can probably help you better than somebody you know, because they're not going to take your feelings into consideration. Not saying they're going to be real nasty and mean, but they're just not going to be sitting back thinking about how you feel about something. All right, this has been Better for the Day. Once again, the book is available on Amazon, or you can get it from me. It's called Grief the Silent Assassin. It's a very good book. It's like a starter book to get you started on your healing journey. Healing is a journey. Healing is a journey. It's an endless journey, but it could be a good thing, depending on who you going to see. You know, you should be able to feel good about yourself again. You know, one of the things that a lot of people experience is guilt from when a loved one died, especially if it's somebody that you know you should have been going to see more of and you haven't. You know, we're all guilty of that. You know, there's some of my family live right real close to us. We don't even go see them, but as soon as something happens, if you got an opportunity to go see these people, go see them. You know, Pastor Ray said something on Sunday that I always say. God knew who you needed in your family. Otherwise, he'd have let you choose them. He'd have let you choose them. But praise him that he did not. But these are the people we're the most harsh with until they die. And all of a sudden, whoa, I can't believe it. But you never went to see them when they was alive. You never called them. You never did nothing. And now you don't even understand. One of the things that kicked in is guilt. And now you want to try to make it right when you can do that while they're alive. So, like I said, this is Better for the Day. I'm Al. Carm is upstairs stalking. She's right there. See her? She's right there. And maybe she'll be on next week. Maybe she won't. But we'll be on talking more. Maybe we'll talk about grief. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But until then, y'all be good. Peace.